It is estimated that during the Roman Empire, millions of animals and hundreds of thousands of people perished in the arenas. This is not the story of honor or glory. This is the story of what happened when entertainment went too far, when a civilization built on law and order became addicted to chaos and blood. It is a crisp morning, 80 AD. The sun has barely crested the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows across the stone. We are here at the Flavian Amphitheater, the Colosseum. The crowd, over 50,000 strong, is a living, breathing entity, a sea of white togas and expectant faces. They are not here for poetry or politics. They are here for death. The arena floor, a golden blanket of sand, is already stained. Not from today's show, but from the day before. And the day before that. A testament to the city's insatiable thirst for blood. A young boy in the front row points, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and glee, at a crimson smear near the central gate. His father pats his head, a proud, casual gesture. For them, this is normal. This is life. The morning hunt, blood in the sand. The gates of hell are opening. This is the start of the morning hunt, the Venationes. But it is not a hunt. It is a slaughter. The first creatures to emerge are not men, but beasts. Dozens of them from across the known world. Lions from North Africa, their manes matted with dust. Bears from the forests of Germania, their eyes wide with panic. The beasts are disoriented, blinded by the sudden sunlight and deafened by the roar of the crowd. They are trapped. A trap 50,000 people have paid to watch them die in. The Roman fascination with exotic animals knew no bounds. They saw the capture and destruction of these creatures as a symbol of their empire's might, a domination of nature itself. Historian Cassius Dio recounts a single day of games under the Emperor Trajan, where over 11,000 animals were killed. But the most chilling account comes from the Stoic philosopher Seneca the Younger, who watched from the stands in disgust. He wrote in a letter, "Man, who once was a sacred thing to man, is now torn to pieces for fun and amusement." This is a show of force, a calculated display of power. The Venationes, the hunters, enter the arena. They are armed with spears and bows, but this is no fair fight. They are professionals. The animals are starved and terrified. The killing is swift and brutal. A bear lunges, only to be caught in a net, and finished with a series of quick, merciless stabs. An elephant trumpets in agony as its life drains onto the sand. The crowd, at first silent with awe, erupts in cheers. They want to see blood. They want to see death. And the sand, which started golden, now turns a rich, dark crimson. But what happens when the prey can feel pain, and the spectacle is less about a hunt, and more about a human being's final, agonizing moments? Executions by beast, a public punishment. The midday sun is high, a white-hot glare reflecting off the stands. The arena gates open again. This time, no wild animals are released. Instead, a procession of shackled, defenseless men and women are led out. Their clothes are torn, their bodies frail. These are the Damnatio ad Bestias, the condemned. They have been sentenced to death by the beasts. Their crimes range from murder and arson to, in a growing number of cases, simply refusing to worship the Roman gods. For the Romans, this is more than an execution. It is a moral lesson, a public punishment designed to show the consequences of defying the empire. The executioner's job is simple: to make the show entertaining. The condemned are sometimes dressed in costumes from Greek and Roman myths. One man, a convicted thief, is told he will play the part of Prometheus. He is chained to a stake in the center of the arena, and a lion, playing the eagle, is released. The screams are real. The tearing of flesh is real. The crowd cheers, shouting lines from the play. The most infamous of these executions were those of the early Christians, persecuted for their faith. The historian Tacitus described the brutal spectacle under Nero in 64 AD, recounting how Christians were covered with the skins of wild animals and torn to death by dogs, or crucified or set on fire, so that when night fell, they might serve as a torch to illuminate the gardens. The spectacle unfolds, a slow, horrifying ballet of fear and death. The beasts, starved and trained to kill, do their work with terrifying efficiency. The air fills with the smell of blood and dust. One woman is cornered against a wall, her face a mask of abject terror as a lion closes in. The crowd rises to their feet, their eyes fixed on the inevitable. But the true stars of the arena were not the condemned. They were the men who fought not for freedom, but for a chance at it. And their stories are perhaps the most tragic of all. The Gladiatorial Games, beyond honor and glory. The late afternoon is for the main event. The gladiators. The word gladiator evokes images of honor, courage, and Hollywood epics. But the reality was far more brutal. Gladiators were property. They were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals, forced to train in the Ludus, the gladiatorial school, under the iron hand of a Lannister. Their lives were cheap, their training was hard, and their purpose was singular, to die with style for the entertainment of a bloodthirsty mob. We have found archaeological evidence that debunks the myth of the noble warrior. At a mass grave in Ephesus, archaeologists found the bones of 68 gladiators. The injuries tell a horrific story. One skeleton shows a massive head injury from a truncheon blow. Another, a deep sword cut to the skull. These men were not romantic heroes. They were brutalized athletes whose average life expectancy was in the low 20s. And the end of a fight was rarely about a brave defeat. It was about survival. The duel begins. The Murmillo, with his large shield and short sword, circles his opponent, the Retiarius, who wields only a net and a trident. The crowd roars. The trident lunges, the sword parries. But a mistake is made. The Murmillo slips. The net flies. It envelops his legs, and he falls, his heavy armor trapping him like a turtle on its back. The Retiarius raises his trident, ready for the killing blow. The crowd holds its breath. The Retiarius looks to the emperor, seated in his box, for a verdict. The fate of the fallen man rests on a single gesture. A thumb turned up means life. A thumb turned down means death. But what if the spectacle was not just about two men fighting, but about an entire sea battle? And what if the death count was not in the dozens, but in the thousands? The most inhumane acts, spectacles of depravity. For the Romans, there was always a higher bar for brutality, a greater spectacle to be devised. When a simple duel between men no longer satisfied, they turned to something of unimaginable scale. The Naumachia, simulated sea battles. Imagine the Colosseum, a solid fortress of rock, transformed into a massive lake. They would flood the arena, fill it with ships, and force thousands of men, often prisoners of war, to fight a naval battle to the death. The historian Cassius Dio describes a similar event ordered by the Emperor Claudius on the Fucine Lake, involving 19,000 combatants. The men fought with no hope of victory, only a slim chance of survival. The water would run red. The screams of the drowning men would fill the air. The crowd would be ecstatic, but perhaps The most depraved acts were the live-action mythological executions. They took the stories of the gods and gave them a gruesome mortal twist. Remember the men who played Prometheus? The lion was no actor. Another myth told the story of Orpheus, a musician torn to pieces by a frenzied mob. In the Roman arena, a condemned man would play Orpheus. A group of women dressed as Maenads, the frenzied followers of the god Dionysus, would be given swords, and the end of the myth would be enacted, live, for all to see. The historian Marshall wrote of these spectacles, often with a sense of awe at their sheer creativity. But creativity was simply a new way to inflict unimaginable pain. The Romans created a market for the most grotesque forms of violence. It wasn't just a part of their culture. For many, it was their culture. They were so desensitized to death that they needed to invent new ways for it to be beautiful, to be shocking, to be entertaining. As we look back at the arenas of Rome, the glint of the trident, the flash of the sword, and the roar of the crowd, the games went too far. They crossed a line from sport to slaughter, from competition to depravity, from entertainment to an utter disregard for human life. Are we truly so different from the Romans who found joy in the brutal spectacle of another's suffering? Or have the arenas simply changed their shape?